Hi, I'm Albert Wutch, and we're here with Outdoor Solutions from fieldtotable.com. We have a top round of Axis deer, and we're going to prep it for our sautéed Axis chops or medallions in a blackberry brandy glaze. So this piece of meat looks very similar to the loin or the back strap off of a deer. You can see the grain going this way, and it has a very similar shape. So basically on this cut of meat, we always have a little chain that's attached here. After you trim it off, we have a little decal that comes off. Remember, this is the top round, the inside part of the hind leg. So you have to go out and check our other videos on how we got that from the field to the cutting board here. This piece of meat is the most tender piece of meat on the hind quarter. And it's the most versatile. It's also the most abused. So we're just gonna take this piece and trim it off. That looks that you can take that and put it right in the bag with the tenderloins. That's that tender, and it's shaped exactly the same way. So now we have a nice piece of meat. This looks similar to the bottom round, the shape of the bottom round. You can see the grain is going this way. So when it's cut to go onto the plate, we want to cut across this way. Always cut, the last cut that goes on the plate should be across the grain. In one of our previous videos from fieldtotable.com, we have a demonstration on how to fabricate the loin into roasts, into chops, into medallions, into cutlets, and stir fry or stroganoff. Same exact thing, and it actually kind of looks like a goose breast. So what I want to do with this, instead of leaving these sharp edges on there, I'm just going to trim them off. I need some meat for grinding or stew or chili anyway, so basically we're just going to take it and round it off. So we're just going to cruise right down here with our knife, and we're going to try to take some of those sharper edges off. So we have now, it's a little more rounded and we could get a better chop. We'll square this piece off, and I want to make some nice chops. And this is going to be sautéed. All tender cuts get dry cooking methods, which is stir fry, sauté, pan fry, deep fry, broil, grill, and roast. We're going to sauté these up. We're going to put them on a crouton on the plate. We're going to deglaze the pan with our blackberry brandy and blackberries. We're going to top it with some goat cheese. Yesterday we fabricated our top round of Axis for our sautéed dish. It's a sautéed Axis top round with a blackberry glaze. So we're going to sauté this, and as a chef, we get lots of gadgets. We're trying out equipment all the time. So I'm going to try out this jacquardi. It's a bunch of little needles that tenderize the meat. And we're going to see if it really works as far as making some of this meat tender. We're already starting with a tender cut. We cut the top round into these smaller chops, similar to the shape and size of a piece of loin. So a quick rundown what we're going to do. We're going to use the sauté pan. I'm going to go over all the key steps of the cooking method, of the sauté cooking method. So number one is the tender cut, the right pan, a hot pan, small amount of oil. We got a little bacon fat here. We're going to season it with some salt and pepper. We're going to add some blackberry marmalade, deglaze the pan with blackberry brandy. And then we're going to add a little more broth to it. Of course, the meat will be removed, and we'll have the sauce reducing, and then we're going to finish it on some toast points with a little bit of goat cheese and the glaze over the top. So when we choose a sautéed dish, we sauté in a pan to get the fond, to make the sauce, to cook and serve the meat smothered in the sauce. So we don't sauté dry. We choose the dish because we want to get the fond from the bottom of the pan. And I'm going to demonstrate that right now. We add a little bit of oil, just a little bit. We're not pan frying, we're not deep frying, we're sautéing. So a real small amount of oil. How do you know it's hot enough. Well, that one's hot enough, it's smoking. You put your finger in there, it's gonna brown up really nice. So they're ready to go. So we take the meat, we want the meat fairly dry, and we lay it away from us, leave it in one place. Don't move it yet, because the more we move it, the more heat loss we have on the pan. So we don't want to shake it because we'll lose our temperature. We lay it away from us so it splashes onto the back, not onto our arms. And if you were sauteing pieces any thicker than this, then what we would want to do is we'd want to go to finish it in the oven. Once it starts to cook away from the pan, it'll loosen up and you can give it a shake. And when you saute, that's usually when you get a little bit of a flame. Nice caramelization, nice brown on the meat. We want this meat to be rare, medium rare to rare. We don't want to overcook a tender cut, and when we saute tender cuts. So if you overcook a tender cut of meat, you make it chewy and tough, no matter what kind of meat it is. So if this was veal, we don't want to cook it, we don't want to overcook it. So back to the key steps. The key steps were the tender cut, the right pan, hot pan, small amount of oil. Don't overload the pan. If I put all that cold meat in the pan, it would cool the pan down. That's why people say take the meat out and let it rest for a little while. Let it warm up, because the cold meat cools that pan down and then the meat sweats and you get a bunch of juices in the pan. You want the juice to stay in the meat, not in the pan. So now I'm going to take the meat out of the pan. And if you notice, it's separated. That's a really important key step on the saute. We don't want to stack it up, or don't dump it into a bowl. It's going to keep cooking here. We want to spread it out, because if you put it in a bowl or put a big pile, then it holds the heat and then it sweats. And then you have a plate full of meat with a bowl full of juice. You want the juice in the meat, not in the plate, and not in the pan. The brown fond on the bottom of the pan, which you really can't see here, F-O-N-D, that's what gives you color in the sauce, that's what gives you flavor. We want to deglaze that by adding a liquid, and that will remove that fond, give us good color, good flavor. We don't want to put this pan under the water and pour it down the sink. We're going to deglaze this, and I've poured the blackberry brandy. If you're going to add any alcohol to this, you could add garlic or shallots or mushrooms if you want to do. But if you're going to add alcohol, don't add it from the bottle. Pour it into a container. And remove it from the heat, because by the time it gets to the other side, it should ignite up. Now we're going to add some, that's deglazing, that's already reducing. And we're going to add some blackberry preserves to this. Now that flame was pretty high. I added that straight up for our special effects guys on our team, our photography team. But usually you can add the brandy when you add the jam, so that you don't get such a flame. We don't want to catch your hair on fire, or we definitely don't want to catch curtains on fire. I'm going to add a little beef broth to this pan just to deglaze it. No flame there. And that'll come up nice and dark, get some nice color on there. And then if you look in here, of course, the sugars are already foaming up and caramelizing, so we're going to add some broth to this. For these recipes, if you go to fromfieldtotable.com, you can find these recipes there and or the videos. Okay, so the next key, we said the first, let's just review the key steps. The key steps was a tender cut. The next one is the right pan, a hot pan, a small amount of oil. Don't overload the pan. Don't move it too much. Turn the meat once. remove it, deglaze the pan, and let that sauce reduce down. So the reason why we remove the meat and don't pile the meat up, the reason why we remove the meat was because we don't overcook a tender cut. If you leave the meat in the sauce while it's boiling it, you're going to overcook it and it's going to be rubbery and tough and dry. Of course, we have to taste this now. I like kosher salt. Give it another shot of pepper. It's got a little sweet to it from the blackberry preserves. Gonna turn it up again and let that cook down to a glaze. Okay, so we got a nice consistency for our glaze. We're gonna taste it one more time. Right on the money. We're gonna take our blackberries, put our blackberries in here. We're going to add our meat back in. So there's our meat smothered in sauce, in glaze. We're going to reheat this meat. Remember, it's rare. We've got a nice glaze on it. Nice caramelization. I can tell it's rare by touching it. The softer the meat, the more tender it is. Now, if you wanted to really make this rich, and if you weren't worried about cholesterol or calories, we could throw a 1/4 pound of butter into that sauce. So now it's ready to plate up. We start with a toast point. We're going to put a medallion or chop on the toast point. Or if we were running 2 small chops, now we have some seasoned goat cheese. And we're gonna put some blackberry glaze on there. The meat's already glazed. So now we have some rendered bacon. We sautéed the medallions in bacon fat. Some chopped parsley. Of course, we got to have a little bit of greenery on there. And for something just a little different, we might even put a squirt of honey on the plate. This is the best part. Got to taste all the way throughout, but knowing what it's supposed to come together, all the flavors together. Nice and tender. If you enjoyed this recipe and this video, give us a like, hit the subscribe and the notification bell, and please come eat with us from fieldtotable.com.